Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Quintessentia, the flower of life, Metatron's cube, the significance of 19, and the correlation as the greatest sign for humanity, as described in the Holy Quran. Let us begin. If we have a Big Bang, something coming from nothing, leading to a universal crunch, the convergence towards nothingness, into nothingness. Let us look at how we can gather information from our perception within this denoted cycle of time. Now, from nothing comes the expression of a singularity. Instantaneously, its counterpart, the negative one, expresses itself. So from the void, you have the expression of one, but really it's two. So from our state in this reality, we are perceiving the two. We cannot actually touch the one. In essence, you can even say the one doesn't even exist from where we stand. However, if the one did not exist, this whole reality would not exist, and we would not even be able to perceive a single thing. So from the void, you get the one, and you get the negative one. Now this is really three, and from three, you have the essence of one, which brings you to the four, and this proliferates towards the infinite. And we are perceiving the proliferation towards the infinite. Now, we can also perceive something else, which is the convergence towards the singularity, towards tapping into this throne room where the Quintessentia is unfathomably benevolent, holy, where the highest angels are converging in prostration towards the one holy of holies, none comparable unto it. Now this proliferation from our perception allows us to see it move towards greater geometries, and these geometries are correlated to the numerical values of this reality, and God's laws stay consistent. Now, through this proliferation from the throne room, from the Quintessentia, we reach towards the flower of life. From the singular and its proliferation, we eventually get to the number 19. This is important. Keep this in mind. Now, geometrically speaking, we can look at this as an archetype, and as an archetype, we can see it form in this reality as the flower of life. That's the name it's been given in this time. The flower of life. This example right here. You see, from the one, we get this proliferation towards the 19. Now I'm only giving you the most core values here. I'm not explaining everything. And inshallah, you will be able to converge your mind towards this and understand in completion. Now, why is this important, the 19? From this pattern, many people have said that the idea of creation comes from this archetype, as in our understanding of reality can be rationalized through this archetype and what it represents. Now, again, this is just geometry. These are just numbers, and we're talking sequence and correlation from the Quintessentia towards the 19. Now, look here. You'll notice there's a barrier here. Why is this important? Because once you move past the 19 circles here, that is the flower of life, once you add another layer of more geometric circles, you get Metatron's cube. You finally have the sequential correlation to create Metatron's cube. Metatron's cube, okay? Past the 19th border, where the 19 are represented, now we have Metatron's cube. Why is this important? This is important because with the flower of life, not until you move into Metatron's cube can you, geometrically speaking, create the 5 Platonic solids. Okay? So, again, from our position, we perceive the Quintessentia, and from that we see the proliferation and the archetype for the flower of life. The flower of life is still in the creation and the expansion of consciousness, which allows us then to perceive Metatron's cube. And only until you move past the 19th border do you create the potential for the 5 Platonic solids, which constitute the very physical reality of elements that we exist in and have existence with. Okay? Now, this is important as we move forward. So we stand from a position of the outside looking in. We are proliferating. Nature becomes complex. It adapts. It creates new structures in alignment with the divine archetypes that denote success and all virtuous realities. Now, in the proliferation, there's also a convergence. This would be considered the angelic realm. Within this archetype of the 19, there's also a convergence as described in scriptures, in the books, in the Holy Quran, as the angels are prostrating to the Holy of Holies, which that denotes a convergence, a reality of convergence, a light of convergence. Now, in the same way that our physical light proliferates through this reality and we see it as moving forward and being absorbed by plants, which creates even more complex systems, there's also something else happening, which is the convergence. And we see this, and we can perceive this in our reality as well, because, for instance, as an example, geodes. Here's a cross-section of a geode. Now, you will notice that although there is a proliferating reality, a proliferating physical light, there's also an archetype towards convergence. The stones. The stones. Okay. Now, such a speech, even when you look at a seashell, it is using an archetype to create these patterns that allow us to perceive it in this reality. Why is this important? This is important because this denotes a threshold between our reality and that reality. And this creates an abundance of information for us as human beings, and that we must understand that if this is the case, how do we get back? We came here and are in these bodies, but how do we get back? Now, pay attention, please, and I hope, inshallah, this will come to you and increase you in faith and bring you into greater realization and bring you to come into your own discoveries for greater systems on this. Now, again, the Quintessentia, the 19, the converging reality of angels in prostration, light, angels made of light, and the human being coming into creation, having coming out, perceiving our place in the Big Bang and a coming universal crunch into nothingness. Now, listen, when you put an equilateral triangle inside a sphere, its side falls at 19.5 degrees. Okay, why is this important? If you look at any of our planets in our solar system, if you look at this pattern where an equilateral triangle comes, or if you place an equilateral triangle inside that sphere, the planetoid, its corner falls at 19.5 degrees. Now, on every planet at 19.5 degrees, you will see an anomaly. If you look at Jupiter, you have the Great Red Eye Storm. And these anomalies are consistent with all these planets and spheres. Even on Earth. And where on Earth? In Hawaii, right? Now, Hawaii has, I believe, Maui, or there's the largest volcano on Earth falls at 19.5 degrees in Hawaii. Now, why is this important? Because this shows us that there's a disturbance in this reality that is denoting the threshold that moves beyond the 19 through Metatron's cube and touches our reality. This is an energy, some kind of force moving through our reality. Now, (19.5 degrees). If you look at the Earth, 19.5, you have the volcano. Now, when you move all the way across the same degree, where does it fall? It falls on Mecca. SubhanAllah. So, think about this. Since the time of Abraham, alayhi salam, Moses alayhi salam, to Isa alayhi salam, to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There have been these pearls of light connected with the greatest love for humanity, because Abraham built the first house of God, the Kaaba, in Mecca. Why? He perceived the ultimate purpose for humanity in the message of worshiping the one true God. Understanding that we are in this proliferation, in this realm where we are battling with the duality, coming into our own to understand the divine. But it is these holy people who brought it to fruition. Because, what does this mean? Bring it all together now. Let's see. Beat me to it. Because if we have the proliferation, the Kaaba represents the capacitor, the soul capacitor, to bring the aspects of this proliferating blessings of God and archiving it so that when the universal crunch happens, we can pass through the void into the birth of the new reality. Now listen closely. The new reality will be a birth into the flower of life. But the flower of life will no longer be a proliferating reality like we perceive it here. There will be no time. So to say, a static eternity. But look, the Holy Quran mentions, over it are 19. Now, do you see how we must pass through the void? But how do we pass through? All the energy, the idea of any energy, the idea of life, the very essence of life that God blesses us with. Blessings on blessings on blessings, converging, while the disconnected are proliferating without any light, without any life. Stuck in their distortions. Of course, there's a lot of information here I haven't mentioned. And I hope, inshallah, one day I will. But I think did you get it? Okay, one more time. Expression of one. The two, untouchable. The beat of the universe, from our perception, from the duality looking in. Understanding that in the convergence of the two coming towards the one, we tap into this and perceive a greater essence of that life force. In the proliferation, we are moving through this as this heartbeat is happening in the very essence of every point of reality, of every reality of realities. And in this time, subhanallah, those pearls of light connected with love. Love for who? now coming to fruition to create the capacitor of the soul. This is the greatest arc. Isa was a fisherman of men. Noah had an ark. Okay. The proliferation, the soul capacitor. How? We have 5 pillars: daily prayers, pilgrimage, archive your soul so that you can move through the ultimate void of nothingness. I hope you understand how much of a mercy this is upon mankind, in the essence of, sure, you can go it alone. You can go it alone. But why? 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 This is the greatest mercy for all mankind. This has gone too long. Okay. The core values. Inshallah, you found this enlightening. Inshallah. We will all come into this together in greater understanding. Allahu Alam. I could be completely wrong. But in essence, we are in a proliferating universe. We have to archive our souls along with everything that works with the mind, the body, the soul, the heart, everything coming together in convergence with all the virtues of the divine, so that we can be of those who close our loop, fourth dimensionally speaking, so we can have our halo without distortions, so that when we pass through the void, we aren't pulled back into the abyss, so that we can enter into the final tree, and so that we are not void of the divine. Salam, salam, salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace, peace, peace. Inshallah, let that be the greeting of paradise.